Hello and welcome. It's a good day to be on the farm. This is Chuck, and I'm back with you with the second part of May in this farming simulation series where I'm trying to make a flour mill in Erlengrat profitable. This is we had a little bit of downtime in last episode where we didn't really have anything to do with our crop fields, but they're not ready to harvest, and the grass wasn't quite ready to be mowed again. Excuse me, on our main plot of land. So we decided to pass some time by buying this giant grass field that was just south of our main fields here. Last episode we got all of this mowed up, and that took us pretty much most of the morning. I think it's 12:41, 12:42, something like that, in the time. So we basically spent all morning mowing, but that was what I spliced together in the last episode using a bunch of time lapses. And today we're actually getting the baling done. So we're out here trying to get as much of this field done as we can. Now, again, this field is huge. If you didn't see the last episode, go back and check that out. But I think we only mowed the bottom third of the field, maybe like 40% at most, but it is still just a ton of grass. So this is the baler that we've been using to make silage bales. The whole reason we're doing this is trying to raise some money from silage bales to buy that field 14, which, if you go all the way back to the first episode, is one that I really wanted to get originally, but it had already been plowed and it had some field stones in it, and we ended up going a different direction. And so, but here we are trying to get field 14 because it has a crop on it that we want. So we're going to go ahead and try to raise some cash. And we had our most profitable crop so far in this series was the silage bales we got off of field 15 when we originally had already fertilized it by cutting it once. We cut it a second time and cut all the margins, and we had almost 4 trailer loads full of silage bales, and that netted us about $100,000. So we're trying to raise a little bit of cash in our spare month here, rather than just skipping through May, to try to help us fund the purchase of that other field. Now, it's not going to be enough. We're still going to have to take out a loan, which is something we haven't technically done much of, other than at the beginning of last episode we took out a loan to buy this giant grass field. So but we're obviously hoping to turn this into a profit, but also the field that we're going to buy is a little bit less than this field as well, so we won't have to invest as much. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and jump to a time lapse here, because you have seen me bale before, but there's going to be a lot of baling in this episode. I'm going to have to cut some, I'm going to have to time lapse some, so hang with me as we work our way through this. Thanks. Welcome back. As you can see, we're just finishing up the headland. Well, it's not really a headland, but the bottom part of this area on the east side of the grass field. As you can see, I've got all these strips. Well, you'll see in a minute, but I've got all these strips running kind of north and south on this area. This is sort of a big open area of the grass field, except it's on a hill. So when I was cutting it, it had to do quite a bit of mowing downhill and looping around, and then the same sort of thing here for picking up the bales. I can wrap them going uphill. It seems to be working okay, but it does slow me down just a little bit. So just sort of playing around with that and trying to figure out the most efficient way to do it. I did do pretty much a lap around, except for the farthest south end of the field. There's I think 2 headlands there, which we'll go get here in a second. And then we can start running up and down these strips here. So these strips right off to the right. And just baling this area. This is a lot of grass for only being like a third to maybe a half of this grass field. I mean, I think it's definitely less than half, but it might be half of the mowable area. It's a little more bendy at the top, so there's not as many wide open areas like this, but there's just a ton of grass on this field right here. So anyway, I've got quite a bit more footage of me baling all of this together, but I don't think that you necessarily need to see all of that. So I'm going to cut in a couple other pieces and then maybe trim out the rest, and then we'll get to picking up the bales here at the end of the episode. So I'm going to go ahead and maybe do a jump cut here and then come back in with a little bit of a time lapse of some of the other parts of the field or something along those lines, and then we'll catch back up. So hang in there, and thanks for watching. And welcome back again. So as you can see, now we're on the southernmost southwestern corner of the part that we mowed. Off to my left you can see the line. That's where we just kind of drew a east to west line across the field and mowed everything north of that line. But there's quite a bit that still goes up in the hills, but the elevation is a little bit higher here than the lower part of the field, obviously. But we're this was a nice flatter area to mow, and it was obviously easier to mow east and west in this area, but I did cut it off by that little crop of trees that's kind of behind me. As you can see, I've already done a couple of rows up here, so we're just finishing off this section, which we'll do here in a little bit. It has taken a while just to get this far, and we're still not done with bales. I think we're going to have even more bales off this third of a field that we mowed than we did even off of our fertilized field 15 when we harvested that and made our own profit. So I think, yes, this is worth it, and we weren't going to do anything else in May anyway, so the other choice was take the month off and sleep through it, and then just go to June and see if anything was ready to harvest then. So this is definitely the wise choice for the farm and for the success of this series, but man, it is a lot of baling. So I'm trying to not overload you guys with too much, but this is just some, it's kind of pretty up here, mowing and baling, and you get these long shadows from the pine trees, and that's what I love about this map. Here in the Swiss Alps, the scenery is just amazing. So it's kind of relaxing and maybe even cathartic to just kind of spend some time up here working with some bales. Oh, I'm a little stuck on that one. That's not great. Yep. And there we go. I think that should loosen us up. Yeah, push that out of the way. Anyway, we're going to just continue to make bales and take some laps here. I thought this would be a struggle to get this done today, which is why I cut the field, obviously, to make it easier to kind of do it in sections, but I'm not even sure that we're going to get all of this done. I mean, we're making good progress on the baling, but I'm not sure that we're going to be able to get them all off tonight before it's too dark to see what we're doing. And as much as the black bales look kind of cool sitting across the field, this is the first time I've ever used the black foil on the bales for silage. It makes them so much harder to see in the dark, so I guess I wouldn't recommend that. Lesson learned, but I'm obviously not going to go back and get a different baler. So this one is one we're doing here. It just means we're going to pick them up in the light as much as we can. We'll probably do like a load as it's dusk and try to get through that. And so over here, this is kind of where it became less obvious to make the east and west rows. As you can see, there's still 4 swaths in front of us of grass, but then they start peeling off to the left down the hill. And so as I was doing this, I just decided it would be easier to kind of do those rows down there. And actually, yeah, let's just bale all this flatter area up here before we work on these hills. And then off in the down left, you can see the city. Right before that, you can see, I don't know, like 20 or 30 bales just sitting down there. That's the part of the field that we started with in the first time lapse. And then most of those are done at this point as well. So we're getting there, but again, we're probably going to get another 20 to 30 bales just off this top section, and then this, I don't know, western kind of dogleg down the hill once we get there. I was also concerned about a lot of these bales rolling off the hill and chasing them around, but for whatever reason, they seem to be sitting pretty well. I think it's a lot of this east-west flat. Oh, get up the hill, you can do it. Ah, there we go. Yeah, you run into areas like that where it's just a little bit too steep, and this tractor really struggles to pull this baler uphill like that. Obviously, east and west is working better for mowing and baling, but we should probably use a slightly bigger tractor out here to do this. And the Zetter, while it was a great deal when we bought it, I'm not 100% sure I'm going to keep it forever. We might want to replace it with just a slightly bigger model anyway at some point in time. Now, it was one that was in the sale, and it is nice to have a second tractor, and I'm basically using this to save hours on our McCormick, because we use that McCormick for everything during the year 1, or the first kind of go around. I guess we're still technically in year 1, but that McCormick has already got approaching, 9, I think it's like 8.5 hours of work on it after we were done mowing, something like that. And I don't want to get that up into the teens and the 20s before we're even into year 2. So the Zetter's serving the purpose of pulling this baler around, but it does struggle on some of those hills, as would probably most of our equipment. I bet the McCormick would actually struggle too. But there are some bigger tractors, so if we decide to come back and buy this field again in the future, because I do really like it and it's a great way to get some extra income for the farm, mowing up here, then we could certainly consider getting, a 300 plus horsepower tractor to pull this, just to make sure we had enough oomph to get up those hills. So and I don't know if you noticed in that last time lapse, I made it hyper speed instead of just the normal time lapse speed that I did, but I've decided to sort of, in this video at least, I'm trying to make the time lapses where instead of blending the screenshots together to make it smoother, it just eliminates a lot of frames to speed it up, and it kind of gives it like a little claymation. I don't know if you guys are familiar with claymation, but when I was a kid, claymation was all the rage in the 90s. And anyway, I do really kind of enjoy that claymation sometimes. It does look a little wonky when you're driving a tractor doing it, but in the last video, some of the editing pieces that I did where I would splice those together tended to have, they had this like little fuzzy bar across the bottom. I didn't really want to call it out, but you could clearly see it on the time lapses I did in the last episode, where it just made the grass behind the compass and the speedometer kind of just like on a strip across the bottom. It kind of this blurred, fuzzy green mess, which didn't look very great. And at least so far, it seems like when I do a time lapse where I do the eliminating frames rather than the blending on my editing software, it actually allows you to not have that fuzzy bar, which is a plus, but it makes it look really choppy like claymation. So I don't know, tell me what you guys like in the comments below. I'm open to suggestions, and again, I'm just learning some editing things here in episode 12, so we're just trying to do a little bit more time lapses and jump cuts than we have been doing in the past, just to make it a little bit easier for you guys to see more of me working in the field. I know in the first 10 episodes I just cut out tons of time that I was working the fields, and so you guys would see me start a field with a plow, and then you'd see me like do the last strip or something like that, and I thought that was a little I don't know how to describe it. It was fine, but I thought maybe you guys wanted to see more of the actual field work. So anyway, now I'm just rambling about editing and making videos, so that's the thing. Anyway, we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna cut out and probably put in more time lapse as we finish off baling, and then we'll go ahead and get the cart and start collecting these bales. Thanks for hanging in there with me, and I'll talk to you guys in a minute. Alright guys, and as you can see, we have finished baling in that last time lapse, and we got back down to the farm and grabbed our bale trailer. It is, and I'm going to have to squint at the TV here, 1943 is the time, so it's already 7:45, almost 8 o'clock. So it did take all day to get that mowed and baled, and I'm not sure if you caught it in the time lapse or not, but I was trying to check how many bales we had collected. Unfortunately, it only said 44, so I must have paused and jumped out of that session and started a new session, because there's more than 44 just on this lower field here. So again, this is the southeastern corner of the field, and I started up here at the top of the hill collecting with this auto trailer to see, to make it a little easier. I like to collect in sort of chunks of the field rather than driving around sporadically collecting. Oh, look, a little divot there that you can see a lot better now that it's mowed. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and fill up this trailer. I'm going to guess, I don't know, 4 loads at least. 4 full loads, which would be 96 bales, and maybe a 5th. But obviously we'll get that count here probably in the next video. I'm not sure how much we're going to be able to pick up before it's too dark to see these again. These black wrap bales do look really nice against the green field, but when it's nighttime it is really hard to find them in the dark, or at least I find it hard to find them in the dark. Maybe you guys have had a different experience, but regardless, we're just going to drive around, and we need, what, 4 more to make this a full load, give or take. I do really like this auto load trailer. I know some people might consider it cheating to use an auto load trailer to pick up the bales, but when you've got this many bales off of a field, like waiting for that Anderson baler to slide the 3 back before you can pick up the next one, and having to pick them up like that does add quite a bit of time. And also you can see I'm kind of getting lazy at this point and just taking a shortcut straight across the road into my field, or into my yard down here around field. What field is this? 15? Field 15. Nope, turn on my lights. Just trying to make sure I can start to see. As you can see, it's about to be 8 o'clock and it's getting pretty dark. And we've got this nice little concrete pad that we put in before we had our cabin here. But this was a great spot to kind of store up these silage bales and let them ferment for a couple of months, and it's right off the main access road that runs between our fields 15 and 16. So this is a good place to store the bales, in my opinion, because it's an easy way to get out of this area and down towards where that animal farm is. We're just going to drive around the cabin. I'm just going to try to back it in, but it's easier just to kind of straighten it up this way, because I think it's better to store them heading north and south like this rather than east and west, because if it was east and west we wouldn't be able to pull the trailer all the way in because the cabin would be there. So we're going to just put this one in the back of the, nope, let's just adjust it a little bit more. There we go, and slide these over to the edge of the concrete pad in the back and drop them off like that, and then pull away. This way I think we can get 4 to 5 loads lined up on the concrete pad one way or the other, which will help to ensure that we could mow the margin grass around our fields if we wanted to. Oh, got some air there. Probably shouldn't do that. Run that fast up that hill with this trailer attached. So anyway, we're going to get this second load off the bottom half here. Probably going to be more down here than we can even fit in the trailer, but overall I would consider this to be a success, a better way to use May than just skipping through it and not making any profit for our farm. We were able to turn this month where we didn't have any field work to do, but our crops weren't ready, into hopefully a very profitable month. When we sell all these silage bales, we can see what the exact number will be, but knowing that 4, not even 4 loads, like 3, probably 3.5 to 3 3/4 loads of silage the last time we did it, was over $100,000, and I know the silage price does fluctuate, but I'm not sure how much it fluctuates. I think it's a little bit more stable than some of the crop prices, which tend to be very low in harvest season and quite a bit higher in the winter, which I guess kind of makes sense. Yeah, we're going to take this a little bit more careful down here in the where the drop off from the road isn't so far, and we're going to drive this over again back here to just unload on this concrete pad. So like I was saying, the silage prices I think are a little bit more stable, or the bale prices anyway, because I'm assuming animals need silage, like cow farm would need silage all year round to feed the cows to keep the dairy running. So those are a little bit more stable, where crop prices, obviously, if farmers are harvesting in August, and that's when most of the prices for crops are lowest as well, there's an abundance of grain available because some farmers don't have silos to store it and need it out of their tipper because they need their tipper to continue harvesting. Or, I mean, we had that problem at the beginning of this series where we had the one tipper full of grain. I think it was barley that we had started to feed our chickens, and then we had a second field of sorghum which we harvested. We had to rent that second tipper and lease it for a couple of months rather than getting a silo, because we just couldn't afford a silo for our farm yet. So yep, let's get this last load from the bottom of the field here picked up and taken back to the farm. Well, this last load from here, it's not the last load from the field. We're just, again, kind of dividing the field into thirds. There's this southeastern half where most of the bales were, but we have that southwestern half that's up on top of the hill. There's quite a few bales there, and that's what we saw in the last time lapse. And then we've got kind of the rest of the margins on the north end, which is kind of over here, I think, where we're going to start heading in a second. Yeah, we actually kind of didn't even mow all this stuff, but we had mowed enough. So yeah, there's, not a ton, but certainly, a half a load or a full trailer of bales down here and kind of running up the hill till we get to that southwestern portion of the field too. So yeah, I think 5 loads for sure off this field. We'll see when we get them all caught up. And yep, it's getting dark, so it's not pitch black yet, so you can still kind of see the bales, but it does make it harder, and I don't want to miss one as we're working our way through. So just grabbing bales where we can, and I think there's one more up near that grass line, but we're at a full load here, so let's take this back and turn on some more lights so we can see a little bit better. And again, we're going to take the road over here to where the drop-off isn't so insane. And turn before this tree, and oop, almost ran into the field there. Didn't want to do that. Our crop destruction couldn't say that for a second, is turned on. So driving over the field would be a bad idea. So hopefully we can continue to maintain not doing that. Looks like we have some bread in our bakery too that's ready. Maybe next month when we're not so busy with the mowing and the baling, we might be able to check the price of that and see. I can't remember at this point when that bread price was going to peak, but we do need to make sure we stay on top of that. And then the real thing we need is more flour, but we're not making any more flour till we get this harvest going. So hopefully one of these barley fields will be ready next month, and we'll be able to get some barley off the field to get some more flour produced. Alright, I think it's dark enough. We're going to stop here for the night, and I'll end the video there. Thanks for watching.